Y'all, before I started my first through hike, my brain was a 24/7 disaster simulation. Bears, serial killers, getting lost. That happened, falling off a cliff, you name it. I mean, I was worried about it. The reality, the things I was most scared of turned out to be complete non issues. But there was one thing I definitely should have been a little bit more prepared for: mice. Yeah, tiny, beady-eyed food thieves were a much bigger issue than bears. So let's break it down. Hey y'all, I'm Jeffrey. Welcome back. That's the thing, our fears do not always match reality. So today we're going to talk about what's actually worth worrying about and what's just in your head. Hey y'all, I'm Jeffrey, and welcome to Trail Boss, a semi-helpful guide to conquering your backpacking fears. This 9-video series is here to help you cut through all the fear-mongering that might be keeping you from getting outside with confidence. Now, one of the biggest questions new thru-hikers or hikers of any variety always ask is thru-hiking or hiking or backpacking, is it safe? Now, if you ask the internet, you're going to hear everything from it's the safest thing you'll ever do to you are definitely going to get eaten by a bear or kidnapped by a serial killer. The truth, it's so much safer than most people think. But nonetheless, personal safety does matter. Now, before we dive in, grab the free accompanying ebook, Trail Boss, a semi-helpful guide for conquering your outdoor fears. It's full of all these practical tips that we're going to talk about in this video, the rest of the series, as well as additional tips and tricks to help you feel a little bit more confident on the trail. So click the link in the description, and if you'd rather hike with a group and just take the guesswork out of your next adventure, travel with me. I host group trips all over the world. Some are more adventure focused, always almost geared towards beginners, and sometimes we just go to pretty places to hang out in Nordic spas. So anyway, what are we here to talk about? Backpacking fears. Let's get into it. Okay, let's get one thing out of the way. If you are a person who lives in facts and benefits from knowing facts and figures, you should know that statistically speaking, backpacking and thru-hiking is one of the safest things you could do. Violent crime on major trails like the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide Trail is extremely, extremely rare. The biggest dangers, honestly, are not other people or even animals. They're things like weather and dehydration and injury. According to the National Park Service, you are much more likely to experience harm casually walking through a city than you are walking down a trail. And most rescues are not due to crime. Most nature rescues are not due to crime. They happen because They happen because hikers get injured, lost, or just, underestimate or aren't prepared for the conditions. So despite having a decent amount of experience being around bears or in bear country, when I started my hike, my thru-hike, my PCT thru-hike, I still thought that bears and serial killers were going to be my biggest threats. That turns out the real concern, the real number one, was rodents. Those tiny, sneaky little food-stealing mice. I think they're adorable. But I didn't see a single bear, but mice, they were relentless. My snacks raided, my gear chewed through, and my sleep and peace of mind gone the minute you hear that tall tale scurrying a few feet from your head. Now, I'm not saying that rodents are the biggest danger on trail, but they will rob you blind and they will annoy the heck out of you. And for some people, they can be pretty scary. But this experience taught me a really valuable lesson, and that's that fear is rarely the problem. It's usually that the unknown is. The more you understand the risks, the more you are familiar with mice and snakes and other scary things, the less power they have over you, the more comfortable you are around them, and the more you realize that the outsized space in your head that the fear of them was taking up was completely unwarranted. Okay, next I want to talk about safety concerns for women, because while thru-hiking is generally safe, women unfortunately face some unique concerns. There's all reasons why a female hiker might feel concern. They might feel vulnerable when they're camping alone. They might get unwanted attention from other hikers or strangers in town, and just a general fear of encountering someone with bad intentions. But there's some really great ways to stay safe. Again, you probably won't need to because this is a really great safe space. So it's unlikely that you'll even need these tips. But if so, trust your gut. If someone gives you bad vibes, just remove yourself from the situation. You're probably onto something. Camp near other hikers when possible. We talked about that in another video in this series, but there's always strength in numbers. And while not always, often on even a Thru-Hike, you can often camp near other people, if not very near them. Next, things like sharing your location with a trusted person. There's, apps like Garmin InReach. You can just share your Apple location. There's lots of options for that, but that's another great tip to make sure that you are staying in contact with somebody. Carrying a safety whistle. 3 blasts on the whistle is the universal distress signal. And if you're thinking, okay, I don't have a whistle, you probably do, actually. A lot of backpacks, a lot of emergency equipment, a lot of compasses, things like that actually have whistles built into them. In fact, a lot of backpacks have whistles built in somewhere. So be aware of that. You actually might have one on you and you didn't even realize it. And next are self-defense tools. Guns, I don't know. We'll get into that. Highly do not recommend. It's so impractical. It's the silliest thing. But I can't stop you. Well, the National Park Service can, but I can't. But other more reasonable self-defense tools that I would recommend are things like pepper spray. I had pepper spray right here the entire time for literally any scenario. I don't know. It just made me comfortable to know that I had just a small thing right here at all times, whether it be an animal, a human, something else, I don't know what. It provided a lot of peace of mind. Was it warranted? I don't know, but it made me feel better. I've hiked with tons of solo female hikers, and something that I've heard again and again and again is the fear of people is often the biggest fear. But, and I'm not saying that it's not there, but I don't know. I've seen women change campsites just because a creepy dude gave them bad vibes. And honestly, that's really smart. If something feels off, trust it. That's my advice. Okay, speaking of feeling safe, one of the biggest debates among hikers, I don't know if it actually even is, I think it's fairly cut and dried, is whether or not carrying a gun actually makes sense on trail. So here are a short list of the beginning reasons why it's completely impractical to bring a firearm on trail. Number 1, the weight. You're cutting the handle off of your toothbrush to save ounces, but you're gonna carry a gun? That makes no sense. Legal issues. Crossing state lines, entering national parks, dealing with different state laws, it's an absolute nightmare. There's so many places on the trail that you're not allowed to have it. So many. A lot. And the other thing is the actual risks, in my opinion, they don't warrant it. Wildlife is not out to get you. The crime on trail is exceedingly rare. And the animals who do pose, like a grizzly bear that poses a legitimate, real threat, what gun are you going to carry for 2,650 miles on a Thru-Hike that's going to stop them? Your handgun is not going to stop them. A .45 caliber handgun is not going to stop a bear. It's so impractical. It is so impractical. And I'm going to stop there, but it's so impractical. Just know that if you carry a gun on a Thru-Hike, you're going to get laughed at. At the end of the day, a gun is not really going to make you safer. Common sense and really smart preparedness and practices will. That's just my 2 cents. I own a gun. I'm not anti-gun. But it doesn't make sense on a Thru-Hike. It's so silly. No matter who you are, there are some simple things that you can do to stay safe on trail. Number one, let someone know of your plans. Stay situationally aware. If something feels off, trust your gut. Avoid camping right next to trails and or to roads and trailheads. These areas tend to see more foot traffic from people who are non-hikers or non-Thru-Hikers. So that's another hot tip. And trust the trail community. Almost all hikers are super kind, helpful people. Always trust your instinct, but we're almost all in this together. So just always know that any fellow hiker is probably going to be down to help and make sure that you are and feel safe. The thing is, simple habits go a really long way in making your hike stress-free. Okay, before we go, gentlemen, this is for you. Guys, let's have a chat.
Hello. Hey, if you are sitting there thinking, oh, I want to travel more, I want to go on more adventures, come with me. I host trips around the world. We've been hiking in Patagonia. We went looking for the Northern Lights in Iceland, trekking in Nepal, camping in Banff, Canada, in the Canadian Rockies. We do it all, and we have a real good time. Everyone's welcome. And all the details for any current trips, just click that little bubble up in the top corner, or go to my website, jjb.life/travel. And we almost always make at least one group cringy TikTok. So come hang out with us. We're a real good time.
So you might not feel safe on trail at times, but just know that women's experiences can be very, very different. Or maybe you're thinking, I don't know what this video is about. I've never felt unsafe on a trail. Well, that's amazing. And we're so happy for you. But there aren't very many women who are going to be able to say the same thing. So, men, here's how we can help. Number one, respect personal space. If a woman is hiking alone, do not assume she wants company. In fact, I'd assume she doesn't want company. You can offer. If she wants company, she'll let you know, but do not be a creeper. If she is giving you signs she does not want you around, get the frick away. That's number one. That is number one. Dudes, don't be creepy. And don't make creepy jokes. You might think it's funny, but she might not. Who are you around? You're in the middle of the forest. Don't make someone uncomfortable at camp because you thought you were going to make some funny joke that was sexist or misogynistic or made her feel unsafe. Be conscious of that. Something harmless can really end up affecting other people. Also, be mindful of night hiking and camping too close. If a solo female hiker is setting up camp and you're the only other person around, give her space. Give her space. Unless she comes up and talks to you, in that case, she may be terrified and she may want to know that you're nearby and that you are safe, but just be conscious of the fact that she's in a different situation than you. She's in a different situation than you, and she doesn't probably feel as safe as you feel. And next, if a woman shares a safety concern, support her. Support her. You have no idea what it's like to be a woman doing something like this on your own, so just support her. And last, and most importantly, not least, hitchhiking. Just be conscious. If you know that a place where almost everyone has to hitchhike is coming up in the next 10, 15 miles, and you happen to pass by a solo woman hiker in a not creepy way, offer oh, hey, if conversation naturally, I cannot emphasize enough, stop being creepy, men. If a conversation naturally arises, and it's not creepy, just say oh, hey, I'm planning to hitch. If you are too, I'm happy to sync up with you and wait on you if you'd rather hitch with somebody else. Just be conscious of that. We can do a lot to make the experience better for women. And the reason they don't have the same lovely experience as us is because of us. So let's do that. Okay. So there you have it. Thru-hiking is incredibly safe, but a little awareness, a little preparation can go a really long way. The most of the things that we fear, like bears and getting murdered, getting lost, they're just way less of a concern than you'd think. I mean, here are the real risks, you know. They're things that you can get prepared for, like getting lost when you go to poop or things like that. You know, taking those seriously is important, but not letting it keep you from the adventure is also super important. If you are loving this series and you want more tips on conquering your backpacking fears, check out the full Trail Boss playlist. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to grab the ebook that corresponds, Trail Boss, a semi-helpful guide to conquering your outdoor fears. It includes everything we mentioned in this episode, the other episodes, as well as some extra tips and tricks. And if you just want to hike with me and take all the guesswork and the work out of traveling and safety and logistics, just come with me. I host trips all over the world. We go to all sorts of incredible places. Sometimes they're adventurous, sometimes we go to relax, but we're always doing something fun. So feel free to check out what I have coming up in the future, and you can hop on board. All right, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We're gonna see you in the next episode when we tackle wildlife fears, bears, snakes, and other critters that won't kill you. Probably. Until then, bye y'all. Want to watch another video? Click here. Want to learn more about my upcoming trips? Click here. Want to subscribe and like all my videos and turn those bell notifications on?